Hi there, I'm Alexandra, a 27-year-old part-time housewife, happily married to Wyatt for the past 5 years. We may not have kids yet, but we've been enjoying our lives together. But then, everything changed one day when I stumbled upon my husband's infidelity. So, picture this. Wyatt gets up from his seat and I notice a name and a message on his smartphone from his mistress. I couldn't just let it slide, right? I confronted him when he returned, expecting some explanation. But, surprise, he nonchalantly admitted to cheating. No remorse whatsoever, and even started provoking me. Can you believe it? He accused me of being too demanding, always complaining about this and that. He didn't want to come home to a house with a wife like me, he said. And then came the bombshell. He justified his infidelity by claiming Scarlett, his mistress, understood him better. She's a nurse, makes good money, and even offered to live with my mother in case something happened to her. Talk about a curveball, unlike me, who suggested it would be better not to live with my mother-in-law when we got married. Scarlett is apparently a saint, 3 years younger than me, but according to Wyatt, she's a wonderful woman. It's a whole different story from the one I got. The plot thickens as he throws blame my way, saying I can't get along with his mother even after living together. Do you think there are any benefits to having you with me and my mother anymore? It's not that I didn't want to live with my mother-in-law. You see, she had lost her husband early on and had been living alone. Wyatt, my husband, insisted we live with her, expressing concern about her being alone. But here's the twist. My mother-in-law was still in her late 40s at that time. I felt it would be better for her to live alone, and I shared this with Wyatt. To him, that was heartless. In the end, despite my reservations, we ended up living with my mother-in-law. When we moved in, my mother-in-law apologized, mentioning that she heard from her son that I didn't want to live with her. I tried to explain, but she didn't buy it. From the very beginning, she made it clear she never liked me, suggesting we should avoid interfering with each other. Wyatt later revealed that he had spoken to his mother and she had disliked me from the start of our cohabitation. According to him, he had married the wrong person, and if he had married Scarlett from the beginning, we wouldn't have had such a hassle. Yes, Scarlett, the woman he cheated on me with. In a painful turn, Wyatt belittled me, saying there's nothing I can do to beat Scarlett. To add to that, he highlighted that I, as his wife, hadn't been able to have children for 5 years. He even went on to say that if it were a few decades ago, I would have been sent back to my parents' house immediately. I couldn't bear it any longer, and in response, I handed him the divorce papers I had prepared. But Wyatt, seemingly unfazed, mocked my readiness for divorce. He challenged me, demanding to see the papers from the beginning, accusing me of beating around the bush about his infidelity. He taunted me, insinuating that I knew about his cheating and expected him to beg for forgiveness. However, I stood my ground, refusing to play into his expectations. I told my husband, if you want a divorce, I'll sign this divorce paper right now. He wasted no time and signed the divorce papers without a second thought. Urging me, he said, "Now, don't hesitate and submit this to the court right away." Following his instructions, I did just that and submitted the divorce papers to the court the very next day. That marked the beginning of my life after divorce. However, my former mother-in-law confronted me, exclaiming, "Oh, you're still here. Didn't you divorce my son? Are you waiting for my son to cry and ask you to stay? That's pointless. My son doesn't seem to be thinking about you at all. So get out of here." As I packed my belongings, my ex-mother-in-law continued to make it clear that I was no longer welcome. To add to the discomfort, my ex-husband chimed in, affirming, "That's right. This is no longer your home. Get out of here." My ex-mother-in-law couldn't believe the situation, expressing her disappointment, stating that I wasn't much of a wife for making a fuss over a single affair. My ex-husband concurred with his mother, belittling me further, saying, "My mother's right. But Scarlett is different from this woman. So I'm looking forward to the next one." My ex-mother-in-law echoed her approval, stating, "Yes, the next wife is a kind nurse who thinks of me. I'm glad you divorced this woman." They both seemed to endorse my ex-husband's infidelity, diminishing my worth. Oddly enough, I found myself agreeing with them. I also think it's good that I got divorced. In a determined tone, I assured them, "Don't worry. I'll be gone by the end of today. Please be patient for a little longer since the moving company will arrive soon." Just as we were discussing, there was a timely interruption. Excuse me, we're the moving company. The moving company I had requested arrived at my home. They entered the house one after another to carry out my belongings. My ex-mother-in-law remarked, "Now I can finally breathe easy." My ex-husband added, "We should have done this sooner." They muttered as they observed the moving company in action. Little did they know, a revelation was about to unfold. As the moving company proceeded, a realization hit them. Wait a minute. Why are you trying to take the sofa? That's our property. That woman can't take it. So leave it there. I intervened. No, this is what the client requested. So we'll take it. The tension escalated when they discovered the removal of unexpected items like the refrigerator and washing machine. Confused and distressed, they attempted to halt the process, but the house was emptied swiftly. In the end, I expressed gratitude, saying, finally, "Thank you for your help." I bid farewell to the two of them and made my way to the car parked in front of the apartment. My ex-husband, stunned by the sight, questioned, "What are you trying to do?" My ex-mother-in-law shouted at me, demanding an explanation. Huh? What do you mean? I'm leaving the house because we're getting divorced. You also told me to leave right away, didn't you? Confusion ensued as they questioned why furniture, appliances, and even the car were being taken. They suspected I was seeking compensation for emotional distress. I clarified, "No, that's not it. All of that furniture, appliances, and this car are mine that I bought with my own money before we got married. It's only natural that I take them with me." In truth, most of the furniture and appliances were purchased by me when I was single, and the car held sentimental value from my single days. That car held a special place in my heart, a cherished possession I had saved up for when I was single. Surprisingly, you never heard that story. Well, that's because he deliberately kept it from you. He had been acting as if he bought everything until now, not wanting you to know that the furniture, appliances, and the car were all purchased by me, not him. Perhaps he wanted to impress you by pretending he had bought everything. Wyatt, is what she's saying true? You said you bought everything. Well, why would you lie like that? Well, that's how it is. So I'll take all of my things with me. If you need anything, please buy it yourselves. Then my ex-husband, who had remained silent until then, suddenly remembered something and brought up property division. Right, property division? What about property division? When a married couple divorces, they divide their property, right? That means we should divide all the furniture, appliances, and cars too. You can't take everything by yourself. Is that true? According to him, what I was saying was nonsense, and we needed to instruct the moving company to return the furniture and appliances immediately. But I disagreed, explaining the concept of married couples property. It refers to the property formed by the cooperation of the married couple. In other words, the furniture, appliances, and car that I bought with my own money before we got married are not subject to property division. My ex-husband, unable to believe my explanation, hastily looked up the subject of property division on his smartphone. To his surprise, what was written there aligned with my words. The two of them stood there speechless. We had already decided not to divide our property when we divorced before we got married. I reminded them of the marital property contract, which they seemed to have forgotten. Didn't you suggest that we make a marital property contract before we got married to avoid trouble in case of divorce? I didn't. Before we got married, we were already contemplating divorce. You see, the whole idea behind the marital property contract was like having insurance. You plan ahead to avoid trouble, much like insuring yourself against potential injury or sickness. It seemed like a prudent move. We made the contract based on his suggestion. Later, I discovered that people with significant assets or those who remarry with children often opt for such contracts. At that time, my ex-husband had a better job, and he suggested we make the contract because he didn't want me to claim his earnings in case of a divorce. Fast forward to the present and the tables have turned. Now, I earn more than he does. It may sound surprising, but I'm thankful for the suggestion of having that marital property contract. It turned out to be a safeguard, ensuring that I didn't lose any property. So, a big thank you for that. Now, as I shared this revelation with my ex-mother-in-law, she turned pale and couldn't believe it. She questioned the reversal of roles. Wait a minute, you earn more money? Why do you keep saying that my son doesn't have any money? He works for a major company. Oh, he quit just before he married me. Shocking, right? He mentioned not liking his boss, but the reality was that he caused substantial damage at work and got fired. Before you could absorb that, let me tell you about the furniture and appliances we discussed earlier. Yes, he lost all his earnings as compensation for the damage he caused. As you can imagine, he trembled and protested, claiming that I was making fun of him. Unbelievable, isn't it? But that's the reality he faced. My ex-husband, in a desperate attempt, declared his intention to change the contents of the incomprehensible contract. However, reality hit hard. Changing the contents was impossible. I reminded him of the discussions at that time. After marriage, no alterations are allowed. I emphasized that, no matter how much he cried or screamed, the decision stood firm. He accused it of being fraud, claiming he wasn't properly explained. My suggestion: go talk to someone if you believe it's fraudulent. Yet, even if he consulted, overturning it seemed unlikely. My words left them stunned. But oh, there's another bombshell. I had already terminated the contract, and they had to vacate within a few days. My ex-mother-in-law was shocked. What are you talking about? This apartment was contracted by my son for both of us. I countered, revealing the truth. No, that's a lie. I originally contracted this apartment when I was single. We were supposed to contribute money and live together in a new house. Unfortunately, he lost his job, canceled his room, and moved into this house through cohabitation. It all unraveled, and my mother-in-law, unaware until then, couldn't believe it. Did you keep it a secret from me too? Yes, he desperately wanted to protect his pride, going to such lengths. Why didn't you tell me such an important thing? Because. It's not because. With all the lies laid bare, the two started arguing. I observed the drama from the side and nonchalantly said, well then, that's it. With gratitude for everything, I ignite the engine and pull away. In the rearview mirror, I catch a glimpse of the two of them trying to convey something, but I dismiss it. Their matters are no longer my concern. Yet, the tale doesn't conclude at this juncture. A few hours post my departure from their residence, a desperate plea reaches me. Help me, please. He's on the line, his voice laden with panic. I anticipated the reason behind his call. What? Did you discover your girlfriend isn't a nurse but a part-timer? Or did your lies unravel, and you were left deserted? He's perplexed, wondering how I obtained this information. I clarify. I researched your girlfriend due to your infidelity that led to our divorce. I found out more than you think. Your girlfriend is deceiving you. The real motive behind his call unveils. Never mind, we don't need her. We have Scarlett. Our plans will be a bit earlier, but we can live at Scarlett's house. She's a nurse, so we can manage with just the two of us. Besides, she wanted to get married soon, so I'm sure it'll work out. Determined, they decide to contact the woman he had an affair with. Hello? It's me. Can I come over now? It's a bit sudden, but is that okay? The woman, surprised, responds, sure, but what's going on? He unveils the situation. I'm having a little trouble with my ex-wife, and I have to leave the house. So, can my mother and I come over there? In their moment of loss and homelessness, they swiftly reach out to the woman he had an affair with. But what are you talking about? It's impossible, isn't it? She questions, puzzled. Huh? But you're a nurse, and you live in a nice place. You have several rooms, don't you? So we can stay there, they suggest. I'll tell you this now, but I'm not a nurse. I'm just a part-timer, and my house is small and can't accommodate 2 people, she clarifies. What? Did you lie to me? Why would you say such a thing? He retorts, because I thought I had to lie to get your attention since you work for a major company. If I said I was a part-timer, you wouldn't have paid attention to me, would you? She explains, but still, he hesitates. That's why my house is impossible. Besides, you work for a major company, so you can stay at a hotel or rent a new house, right? She suggests. And I can understand your ex-wife is leaving you. But why are you leaving the house? That's strange. If you're going to blame me, explain it from there. Please, Alexandra, can't we start over? It's all my fault. From now on, I'll do the housework and listen to everything you say. So come back to me. And with this situation, it's not just me, but My mother is with me too. If we can't find a place to go, He pleads, realizing that she is the only one they can rely on. A remarkable change of heart unfolds. His mother echoes the sentiment. Alexandra, I'm really sorry. I didn't realize how important you were. I'll apologize with him. So let's live together with the three of us again. I'll help with the house, started to plead with me, trying to change my mind. However, my feelings remained unchanged. Live together? No way. What are you talking about? I'd have nothing to do with you anymore. Who would go back to your place? I firmly declared. What? Didn't you hear me? He questioned. I'll say it as many times as I need to. I said I won't go back to your place ever again. This is the result of your own decision, right? You're taking me for granted after saying such things, and not getting the results you wanted. Stop underestimating me, I asserted. Then, you're taking advantage of me by being so passive. You have some nerve. Where are you now? Tell me where you are, and I'll come there. Frustrated by my clear rejection, he shouted at me. But once again, I was one step ahead of him. If I tell you where I am, will you come? Yeah, I'll come there right now. And you'll apologize to me. You'll apologize by saying everything I said and did was wrong, and please live with me again, even though I'm such a failure. Oh, I see. Then come over now. I'm at my parents' house. Huh, your parents' house? That's right, you're coming, right? Well, what's wrong? You don't seem as enthusiastic as before. Weren't you supposed to apologize to me? The whole family is waiting, so come quickly. Actually, he's terrified of my father, because my father is a strict police officer. He hates wrong things and things that lack common sense. He's the complete opposite of my ex-husband, who always lives carelessly and recklessly. Your father is scary, Alexandra. Huh? That's not true. If I ever cheated, I might not make it. Well, that might be true. I'm praying that doesn't happen. After we decided to get married and finished greeting our parents, he kept saying that. So he must have been scared when he heard I was at my parents' house. Well, I think I'll pass him going there directly. I think it would be a nuisance if I suddenly visited. It's okay. We don't mind. We've talked everything through, so I thought they might want to hear more from you. Huh, have you already talked? Of course, if their daughter suddenly came back to her parents' house, it's natural to ask for a reason, right? So I just told everything without hiding anything. So, what are you going to do? Are you coming or not? No, however, it was already too late. You said you were going, didn't you? Come to our house right now. You should tell me everything when you get here. Wait! My father, who had been listening to the conversation behind me all along, snatched my smartphone from me and shouted at him. Once it got to this point, he couldn't help but come to our house. If he didn't come, he would suffer even more. And about 30 minutes after that phone call, he and his mother arrived at my parents' house with a very pale face. I think you've heard a lot from Alexandra, but there's a reason for this. A reason? It's not like I wanted to cheat or anything. Alexandra works at the head office and makes more money than me, even though we work for the same company. I've been teased by my colleagues about it. And when I go home, she throws harsh words at me, and that's how I ended up talking to other women and getting into that kind of relationship. When he came to my parents' house, he made excuses to my father that he wasn't at fault. And then, I also saw the two of you interacting while living together. I thought Alexandra's behavior was a bit problematic. Of course, I think my son is to blame for cheating. But this time, Alexandra is also at fault. So why don't we call it even? The ex-mother-in-law joined in and tried to end the conversation by saying that both parties were at fault. What are you talking about? Then my father, who had been quietly listening to the conversation, said this to the two of them. So where was my daughter at fault in this conversation? Ha! Well, because of her prickly words. Then let me change the question. What exactly did my daughter say to you? Things like, don't sleep, help with the housework, or why don't you take out the trash? Words that make it seem like I'm not busy at all. Are you serious? You think that's enough to be considered prickly words? Are you a middle school student? Or are you just joking? What? And the fact that you took my daughter's words of caution as sarcasm means that you had an inferiority complex compared to your wife, who earns more than you. That's not my daughter's fault, and it's not a reason to cheat. Let's calm down a bit. Calm down? Don't be ridiculous. We trusted your son and let our precious daughter marry him. And yet he cheated and was kicked out of the house. And then he turned around and came back after being dumped by his mistress. It's ridiculous. I don't know what you came here for, but we have no intention of forgiving you. My father was furious and his face turned red. My mother was the same. They didn't say anything, but I could tell they were angry. He saw their reaction, and I'm sorry. He apologized profusely, but like my father, I had no intention of forgiving him with such a superficial apology. I handed him the document for the compensation claim that I had prepared with a lawyer in advance. What? A compensation claim? What? Did you think you didn't have to pay? You're a married man who cheated, so it's only natural to pay compensation. That's ridiculous. He was shocked when he saw the amount on the invoice. He asked for a reduction because he couldn't afford it, but he couldn't withstand the gaze of my father, who was watching nearby, and reluctantly accepted the payment. Afterwards, I sent a certified letter of the same compensation claim to his mistress. However, I was deceived too. I dated him because he said he worked for a major company. I never thought he was just a factory worker at a big company. I'm the victim who was deceived. So, I don't have an obligation to pay compensation. She refused to pay compensation, saying that she was deceived. Of course, such an excuse was not acceptable. In the end, the two of them paid compensation as I wished. Have they paid the compensation properly since then? Yeah, I guess they were scared of your yelling, so they paid it sooner than I thought. I see, that's good. But I never thought it would come to this. Me neither. I never thought this would be the outcome when we got married. Well, I'm sure those two learned their lesson from that. By the way, what are those two going to do from now on? They were kicked out of the apartment you were renting, right? Oh, I heard that from someone else too. After that, the two of them had nowhere to go and wanted to rely on distant relatives. But what are you two doing here? We can't say the details, but we have some circumstances. Can we stay here for a while? We're relatives, so we should help each other when we're in trouble, right? Stay here? Help each other when we're in trouble? Are you kidding me? You caused us so much trouble and now you're saying that? Actually, these two had been cut off from their relatives because they had been abusive and selfish in the past. Despite this, they forced their way in and asked for help because they were relatives. Certainly, their relatives turned a deaf ear to their plea and promptly kicked them out. According to rumors, the duo somehow managed to secure a run-down apartment and began cohabiting. However, it's your fault that we ended up living like this. Why are you blaming me? You hated her and bullied her, so she left. That's why she left. Don't blame me. You're the one who made the direct cause. You're the one who cheated and was deceived by your mistress, so you're the worst. The two of them pointed fingers and found themselves in the most unfortunate relationship. As for me, I'm relishing my life solo in a new rented house. If you ask me if my life turned out the way I wanted it to, it didn't. But personally, I'm very satisfied with this outcome.